When people talk about, your favorite players or the best players in the world, I say Mike and I say Kobe. You know what I mean? And then everybody else.
LeBron's after that for you?
Definitely.
LeBron James apparently said, "Yes, sir, no problem, sir." And in LeBron's next game, he's going to be wearing a patch that says all-time leader made field goals.
Allen Iverson just reignited one of the biggest basketball debates on the internet again, and this time fans are convinced he took a subtle shot at LeBron James without ever actually saying his name. The whole thing started blowing up after Iverson began talking about the mentality of older NBA legends and how superstars in previous eras handled pressure, criticism, injuries, media narratives, and playoff losses. Almost immediately, NBA fans started connecting the dots. Because whenever conversations about excuses and accountability come up in today's league, LeBron somehow always ends up at the center of it. Now, whether Iverson actually meant those comments directly toward LeBron or not, the timing, the wording, and the reaction online instantly turned it into a much bigger discussion about leadership, accountability, and the difference between old-school legends and modern superstars. And honestly, the reason this exploded so fast is because there's already growing tension in basketball culture between older generations and the modern NBA. A lot of former players have openly said they believe today's league focuses too much on narratives, too much on image protection, and too much on explaining losses instead of simply owning them. Iverson comes from a completely different basketball environment. This is a player who battled through injuries, carried flawed rosters, dealt with nonstop criticism, and still dragged the Philadelphia 76ers to the finals against one of the greatest dynasties basketball has ever seen. So when someone with that background starts talking about how real legends did not rely on excuses, fans naturally start looking toward LeBron because he sits at the center of almost every legacy debate in modern basketball. And then people started connecting it to everything happening around the Los Angeles Lakers over the last few seasons. Every Lakers loss becomes a massive national conversation. Was LeBron injured? Was the roster poorly built? Was coaching the issue? Did Anthony Davis disappear? Did the front office fail? Were the referees unfair? Now, to be fair, some of those criticisms and explanations are absolutely legitimate. But a growing section of NBA fans believes there is almost always some external explanation attached to LeBron losses in a way they feel didn't happen with older legends. That's exactly why Iverson's comments spread so quickly online. A lot of fans interpreted it as him basically saying that the legends he grew up respecting never spent time trying to manage public perception after losing. In their minds, they took the criticism directly, absorbed the pressure, and moved on without trying to reshape the narrative afterward.
So Vogel's going to take some of this blame. Right? They're going to point the finger at him. And this is what's really bothers me, Molly and Stephen A. This season was never about winning.
Here's the part nobody really talks about. Allen Iverson knows exactly what it feels like to carry impossible expectations without having a stacked roster around him. People forget how unbelievable his 2001 finals run actually was. Iverson averaged over 30 points per game during that playoff run and dragged a Philadelphia 76ers team to the finals that realistically had no business getting there. His second-best scorer in the finals was Dikembe Mutombo, whose primary role was defense and rebounding, not offensive firepower. Meanwhile, LeBron James has spent huge portions of his career alongside All-Stars, Hall of Famers, Olympic teammates, and superstar-level talent. So when Iverson talks about handling criticism without excuses, fans naturally start comparing those situations. And this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because LeBron supporters will immediately bring up an important counterpoint. LeBron has carried weak teams too. The 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers finals run is still considered one of the greatest carry jobs in league history. The 2018 postseason run was ridiculous. He's dealt with bad front offices, weak benches, coaching instability, injuries, and flawed rosters throughout different stages of his career. So for many fans, criticizing LeBron for openly discussing roster issues or injuries feels unfair. But older basketball fans often see it differently. They believe legends like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Iverson, and Tim Duncan publicly protected the locker room more often and accepted blame faster after losses. That's why this whole thing exploded beyond one quote or one interview clip. It turned into a full culture clash between generations of basketball fans. One side sees LeBron as one of the smartest athletes ever when it comes to handling pressure, shaping narratives, and protecting his public image. The other side views those same actions as avoiding accountability. And having Allen Iverson in the middle of that conversation makes it even more powerful because Iverson never built his image around being polished or corporate. He was emotional, raw, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless. But fans connected with him because he felt authentic. What people saw publicly felt real, even when it was messy. That authenticity is a huge reason Iverson still resonates with basketball fans today. He never tried to appear perfect. He showed emotion after losses. He fought with coaches publicly. He got criticized for his style, his attitude, his music interests, even the way he talked. But through all of it, fans still saw someone who genuinely loved the game and competed relentlessly every night. And honestly, that type of image ages incredibly well in an era where many fans feel modern athletes are overly managed by branding teams and PR strategies. Meanwhile, LeBron's career unfolded almost completely differently. From the moment he entered the NBA, everything around him became massive. Every quote gets analyzed. Every playoff loss becomes national news. Every postseason series turns into a legacy debate. Naturally, LeBron learned how to navigate media pressure in a much more strategic way. Some people call that intelligence. Others call it manipulation. But regardless of which side you agree with, there is no denying that LeBron James became the face of the modern athlete branding era. And that's why Iverson's comments landed harder than they normally would. Because Iverson represents an older basketball culture that many fans romanticize today, the tough mentality, the just hoop attitude, the idea of competing without constantly managing narratives afterward. No podcasts after every game. No nonstop legacy rankings. No social media armies defending every bad performance. Fans look back at that era and remember players who took criticism publicly, accepted the pressure, and just kept playing.
Hold on. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever?
Ever.
What about Michael and Kobe? So you just gonna pass Kobe up like that?
I'm gonna pass Kobe up. I'm gonna look at Michael. I'm gonna look at the. I'm gonna look at.
I knew it. Patron America.
Yo.
Patron America.
Now, to be fair, nostalgia plays a massive role in conversations like this too. People love acting like older NBA eras had no drama, no excuses, and no complaints, when that's honestly not true at all. Michael Jordan criticized organizations. Kobe Bryant publicly demanded trades. Shaquille O'Neal constantly called out teammates. Even Allen Iverson himself had public clashes with coaches and management throughout his career. So the idea that old school legends never complained or never explained losses isn't completely accurate. What's really changed is the speed and intensity of modern media. Today, every quote becomes a headline within minutes. Every reaction becomes a debate topic. Every playoff loss gets broken into 20 viral clips across social media. And this is where things start getting dangerous for perception. Once a player's legacy becomes tied to constantly defending failures or explaining losses, fans start paying more attention to the explanations than the basketball itself. That's where a lot of criticism surrounding LeBron James has grown over the past few years. There are fans who genuinely believe LeBron spends too much time shaping how losses are viewed publicly instead of simply absorbing them. Fair or unfair, that perception absolutely exists now. And when someone like Allen Iverson starts talking about legends not needing excuses, it throws gasoline onto that conversation immediately. The timing also made everything louder because the Los Angeles Lakers already look frustrated right now. Questions about roster construction, coaching pressure, chemistry, and Anthony Davis consistency have been hanging over the team for months. At the same time, LeBron is still putting up incredible numbers at an age where most players are long retired, which honestly makes the situation even more complicated. Because the deeper he pushes into his late career championship chase, the more every playoff disappointment gets magnified. And another criticism always comes back to the same point: LeBron has had influence over many organizational decisions throughout his career. Fans point to trades, coaching preferences, veteran signings, roster direction, all the behind-the-scenes influence superstar players can have. So critics argue that if you help shape the roster, then you also share responsibility when things fall apart. That's very different from Iverson's career situation. Iverson rarely had organizational power. The Philadelphia 76ers built teams around him however they chose, for better or worse. Fans never believed Iverson was controlling the front office behind closed doors. That creates a different emotional relationship with fans because it makes the player feel more isolated, more vulnerable, and more responsible for surviving whatever situation they were handed. And honestly, basketball fans have always loved toughness narratives. That's why Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue became legendary. That's why Kobe playing through injuries became mythology. That's why Jordan's flu game still gets replayed decades later. Fans are obsessed with moments where athletes appear mentally untouchable under pressure. So when modern stars openly discuss fatigue, injuries, chemistry issues, or roster flaws, some older fans automatically interpret that as weakness, even when it may simply be honesty. This is where younger players sometimes underestimate how important perception becomes in legacy conversations. Talent alone is never enough. Fans judge how players lose almost as much as how they win. They remember body language, interviews, post-game comments, effort, leadership, and accountability. That's a huge reason why Allen Iverson's words still carry so much weight. Even without a championship, fans respected the way he fought through adversity. They respected the emotion, the honesty, and the feeling that what you saw from him was completely real. Another reason this exploded so quickly is because the GOAT debate itself has become exhausting for basketball culture. Michael Jordan fans defend 6 championships. LeBron fans defend longevity and versatility. Kobe fans defend killer instinct and mentality. Iverson fans defend cultural influence and toughness. So the second Iverson says anything remotely connected to mentality or accountability, fans instantly weaponize it in the larger legacy war. And honestly, Iverson's cultural influence might still be underrated today. He changed the NBA visually and emotionally. The tattoos, sleeves, cornrows, hip-hop culture, swagger, all of that became mainstream partly because of him. Back then, that style was controversial, and he absorbed non-stop criticism while refusing to change who he was. That authenticity became a huge part of his legend. LeBron's influence is completely different. He transformed player empowerment. He changed athlete branding. He changed longevity standards. He reshaped how modern superstars approach business, media, and career management. So in a lot of ways, this entire debate is really about 2 completely different definitions of greatness. Iverson represents emotional authenticity, toughness, and fearless competition. LeBron represents calculated excellence, adaptability, and sustained dominance over time. Depending on what fans value more, they interpret comments like this in completely different ways. And what makes the situation fascinating is that Allen Iverson has actually praised LeBron publicly many times before. He's respected his greatness, his basketball IQ, and his dominance. That's why fans called this a subtle shot instead of a direct attack. It wasn't loud or obvious. It was layered. The kind of comment where fans connect the dots themselves. And honestly, subtle comments sometimes hit harder because they feel more genuine and less performative. Basketball culture loves reading between the lines, especially when legacy debates never stop for even a single day. At the end of the day, the reason this conversation exploded is because fans are tired of polished answers and carefully managed responses. They miss raw personalities. They miss emotion. They miss players who sound like they survived basketball instead of managing a basketball empire. And whether people agree with Iverson or not, that energy still resonates deeply with fans.